Hello, everyone, and welcome to the EV Geek Podcast. And today is a special episode because our very own Joel Spencer has now owned his EV6 for 3 whole years. Today, I will be joined by Joel and his wife Summer, and we will be discussing the good and the bad of their ownership experience over the last 3 years. So, without further ado, let's plug in and get started. All right, thank you all for joining us. First off, just tell me about the car. What year is it? What trim level? How many miles are on it?
So it's a 2022 Kia EV6. It's the Wind wheel drive edition. Is glacier white. It's got about 46, 47, 48,000 miles, or somewhere right there, right below 50,000 miles.
Okay, cool. Which I mean, after 3 years, 50,000 is not that much. I've put 30,000 on mine in a year, so
When I put on my Tesla, I'm up almost 100,000 on my Tesla. So yep.
yeah. So, what initially attracted you all to the EV6?
Well, I think it was my fault because I had my Model 3 for about 6 months. I think we got in September. So I had about 6 months, and we knew the Kia EV6 was coming out. And I think we saw it online. We saw the Super Bowl ad for it. And then I was just kind of playing around looking at dealerships one day. And I texted her from work saying, hey, the dealership has one. Do you want to go test drive it? And it was freezing cold outside. And she said, sure. So we test drove it. And I think she kind of just fell in love with it. So we've had Kias before. She's had two Tellurides. So we were familiar with Kia. We were familiar with how they work, the insides and outsides of it. So it wasn't a big leap for us. But the part that was a big leap for us was that this would make us a complete EV family. So no more gas cars in our house. So that was kind of one of the things that was intimidating.
Gotcha. So, how does the EV6 compare to vehicles you've had previously, other than being electric?
Well, it's probably the smallest vehicle you've had.
Yes, because the last several cars I've had have all been 3 rows.
Yeah, so
this
she
is
had
definitely a downsize for sure.
So she's had Pilots, she's had Tellurides, she had an Equinox, which is probably bigger than back then. Equinox were a little bigger, which is probably bigger than the EV6. So that was probably the main adjustment we had, because we had at that time one kid getting ready to turn to be a teenager, one kid who was in elementary school, and we had to think, is this going to be okay when our kids are older? And we were shockingly surprised, how much room is in the back. I mean, that's one of the things that initially we were shocked with, is that there's a lot of room in the back seat. I mean, you've ridden the back seats of them, and we've several of them. Besides the little sloping of the headline, which for kids it's not a big deal, there was plenty of room back there for us to travel in. So it really wasn't that hard for us. I think it was a little bit harder for you making the transition from a 3-row to a 2-row, because you reached all the room.
Yes, and of course you sit a little bit lower.
And you sit lower too.
But other than that, I think it was a pretty easy transition. So
Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, for me, kind of knowing a little bit before, I figured the size was going to be the main kind of differentiator. So that makes sense. So you guys purchased the EV6 kind of when it first came out. So what was that like? How did that purchase go?
So we got to the dealership, and like I said, we had just went through was it a snow or ice storm? I think.
I think it was an ice storm.
Yeah, we just went through an ice storm, so the roads are kind of nasty still a little, but enough to drive around and get there. So when we got to the dealership, I will say that time they didn't know a lot about these cars. We had a great salesman and everything like that. Chris was awesome to help us out and everything like that. But to his defense, they had not been trained in these cars yet because they had just came out. So when we got there, told them what we wanted to drive, and this was right after COVID started, I believe, correct? Or right before COVID started. I forget, where Tellurides were in high demand. So they were literally, our car was being looked at by 2 or 3 people while we were buying the EV6. Like, there was other people looking at it while it was just sitting out there. So we knew we would get a good deal for that in the trade-in and things like that. But they really didn't know a lot about it. I kind of had to tell them a little bit about it because, I was an EV owner, and tell them, when we first got it, we drove it around. We really liked it a lot. Didn't have a lot of charge on it. They originally had to take it to, after we bought it, funny story, they had to take it down to the Baseline Electrify America station. Well, I guess the person who drove it down there didn't realize you had to have a payment method when you went down there. So they drove the whole way down there to charge the car for us, because at that time they didn't have a charger at the dealership. didn't have a payment method. Had to drive back, pick up the manager's credit card, go the whole way back down. It was I'm like, literally, y'all really don't have to charge it for us. I can at that time. I think Franklin was open at that time. I said I can literally just run the Franklins real quick and charge. No, we want to give you a free charge. I'm like, because we were there. We literally were there all day. We got there like at 9 or 10 o'clock. We leave till like 4, which I don't know why it should take that long to buy a car. But then they washed it for us, which was not a good thing because it still had a lot of ice on it. And when they washed it, all of the piano black plastic on there all got scratched up. And we didn't realize that till like a day or two later. So luckily, I know a guy, Doug, down in Evolve Auto. I took it down there. He's ceramic coated. They got all the scratches out for me, and things like that. Also, when we picked up the car, they have the little adapter for the vehicle to load. As they try to tell me that was my charging cable. I'm like, this is not a charging cable. It's an adapter that's this long. There's no cable coming out. He's like, yeah, it is. That's what you plug. I'm like, no, you don't. And when he lifted up the trunk, there was the actual charging cable. So it was a little different because they really didn't know a lot about it. I don't blame them for it because the cars just came out, things like that.
Gotcha. But at the same time, Kia had been making EVs before that. So you think they
had the Niro out.
Something.
They had the Niro. They should know something about, charging, for at least for that.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's about how when I bought my Bolt, the guy was like, okay, I'm going to go fill it up with gas. And I just kind of looked at him for a second. And he was like, what? I was like, if you could find where to put gas in it, let me know. And he was like, well, isn't it a hybrid? No, it's not.
So how does we had one of the first ones on the road here in Little Rock, so not a lot of people have seen them. I think there's one other when we went there, we were actually looking for it. Wasn't that one? What color was it?
No, I think it was that color.
I thought it was a bright white we were looking at.
Well, when we went, we planned on looking at just a white.
Yeah, I think they had a white and the glacier white, but when we got there, the white was sold, and the glacier white looked white because my wife has to have white cars. That's all her last 4 cars have been white cars. So she likes white. I think that was an initial hard selling point for her because she really wanted a white car. And this is actually a glacier white, which is kind of like like an antique white, I guess you'd say if you put it on your walls. Yeah. But after she had it for a while, she was comfortable with
it. Yeah. So how does the EV6 kind of fit into your daily routine?
So it's your daily driver. So what do you drive it for?
Well, we both have 2 children that they go to school and about 30 minutes away from where we live. So it definitely has saved us on gas. Because that's when the gas prices started going up, of course. So that has definitely helped not having to do that. And our teenage son, who has just started driving here recently, he's been driving it, and the best thing about it drives just like a normal car. Tesla to me drives more like a golf cart. But driving this Kia is more just like driving a normal car. So that's why, and even our oldest will still not drive this car.
It's just the region. I mean, when you get into the Kia, it doesn't default to iPedal drive is what they call it. It defaults, I think, like a level 2 or level 3, where it does slow you down some, but it's not going to slow you down all. It's not going to stop you all the way like a Tesla does with their regen. So you still have to use the brake, and he likes that. He likes being able to use the brake. Now he did make a comment because we went home for the summer to South Carolina about when he was driving my parents' car. He thought their brakes were bad because he had to push them down a lot. And I'm like, well, they don't have bad brakes. You're just not used to having to use the brake as much because when you let off on the gas, on the pedal, not the gas, on the accelerator, a car does tend to slow down for you where you have to use less brake. So that was a kind of a transition for you. Yeah, but the best selling part I have to say is the gas, because I was probably at that time, she was probably putting in a tank a week, which was probably for her in her Telluride, $40-$50 a week. So you're talking about, $200 a month for gas, as compared to when she plugs in at home, it was costs $2 or $3 a day. So it's a really big savings there with that.
Yeah, because by the time I would leave work and go pick them up, it would be like I would drive to Memphis every day.
Yeah.
I leave work at 2:30. I get back home at 4:30.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the gas saving has been
sitting in carpool lines, went in 2 carpool lines and all that. So we're in our cars a lot. So not having to just sit there and idle and run gas, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you guys done any long trips with the car yet?
So no, and basically that has nothing to do with the car. That has to do with the infrastructure here in Arkansas, which is not too good. I think the farthest we've taken it is Fayetteville. So with Fayetteville, which is about 3 hours away, because we know exactly where to stop halfway there. I would really like to try getting to Fayetteville one time without having to charge. That would be an interesting test because it's about 300 miles is what? That's about 200 miles probably, and it's rated 300, but you're traveling at 70, so you're gonna lose some. So I would be curious enough if I can make it there, but that is the farthest we have gone. We've contemplated taking it to I know we took it to Memphis too, which is 2.5 hours away. We've taken it to Memphis. We've contemplated taking it to Nashville, and things like that, but there's just not a lot of charging for Teslas along Interstate 40 when we were traveling, and it's built up some now. And plus, it doesn't have the en-route navigation, which we'll talk about later. So it's just a lot easier for us to just hop in our Tesla and go. So 3.5 hours is kind of the longest we've ever taken.
Okay. So, what are your thoughts on the interior comfort and features of the EV6?
So I know you like the heated and cooled seats.
I do.
So even though this is like almost one step up from the base model, because I believe the base model is called the Light. I don't even know if they make that anymore. Could be wrong. If I'm wrong, put in the comments and let me know. So this is the one step up. This is the rear wheel drive. And the reason we got that because it had the longer range. So it has the longer range, the bigger battery in it, so we can get farther distance from it. But the nice thing is it comes with heated and cooled front seats. So which is not something you see normal on standard cars that are at the low trim. We've driven some low trim cars that some of them didn't have that.
Right.
More of them have that now, but 3 years ago, not a lot of them had it. It has, other than that, it has everything that we like. I'm not a big fan of the infotainment. It doesn't bother her because she doesn't use it. She just gets in, turns it on, the radio's on. That's all she needs it for. She's not route planning and things like that. So I really like the heated and cooled seats on the front. What kind of features do you like about it?
I like the buttons.
She likes the buttons.
Because in his car, he doesn't have buttons. And that was another
right.
thing that I just cannot stand. I like my buttons. So, yeah, that's the thing that he doesn't really care about. But
Too many.
Yeah, see, I'm solidly in between those two crowds of I want the important things to be physical, but then I'm okay if the stuff I don't do often is in a couple different menus on a screen. I want I want volume to be physical, and your basic temperature adjustment to be physical.
I want my air.
I don't really need anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. But you have to.
So, I get that.
You have to toggle back and forth for the air and the radio, which is a weird system.
I don't ever use that.
You just adjust the radio on your steering wheel. So is that something I can't remember? Is that something that they fixed in the newer models? Is it still in the newer models? I don't remember.
It's still in the newer models, but I think I did show you how you can actually press and hold
the
little toggle, and it'll automatically switch back after a couple seconds.
It's not in the EV9. I think that's what I'm thinking of.
The EV9 is split out. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. But but other than that, it's a comfortable, and I will say this, it is a lot more comfortable and quieter ride than my Tesla Model Y. My Tesla Model Y drives like trash. I mean, it feels like you're driving in like a Jeep Wrangler with 22-inch, 23-inch tires, mud tires on it. I mean, it's loud, it's bumpy. Getting in her car, it's quiet, it's a smooth ride. And that's a really nice thing that we like about it, and how we wish we could take it on more. No, we take it on longer trips now, but since the infrastructure is kind of building itself out, and hopefully soon, Kia's will have Tesla Supercharger access, we'll be able to take it on more longer trips and kind of keep the miles off my Model Y.
Yeah. Which hopefully, you can charge at superchargers soon.
Yep.
Although you won't be able to do that amazing charge speed, which we can talk about later. But
we'll talk about that later. Yeah.
We're getting more CCS stations and whatnot. So it's working out. It's getting there. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite part of the car?
Not paying for gas. That is the favorite part of the car. Is not paying for gas.
It's nice to pass the gas station and do this. Yes. You don't have to stop.
So the car
that's weird.
So the car did have to go into the shop for about 2 weeks. My mother-in-law accidentally backed into it, so it was in the shop for 2 weeks. Had to take a little dent out of the door. So they gave us a Kia Sorento, which nothing wrong. It's Sportage. It's a fine car, but it's not that instant. That instant torque is just nice. When you hit the gas, we kept spinning the tires on that Sportage because we hit the gas too far and spin the tires, and it would go run up. We'd run those RPMs up real fast and real high. It's just that is what. And then it's funny how when you drive an EV for years, like we have driven them, 3.5, 4 years, like we have, and you get back in a gas car, it's like going back to like old technology. It's like hopping on like a riding lawnmower. It's so weird getting in a car like that and having, not having that instant torque, hearing those gear shifts, not, those not here, but the transmission shift gears. It's just an odd feeling. And just, I didn't realize that, gas cars were that loud and that clunky driving them.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely, I don't anymore now that I've got my new job, but before, I'd go drive EV to work and then go get in a Ford Transit or whatever and drive it around. It's just like,
yeah,
you go from it just works to like, oh, I'm having to put my foot to the floor to get it to downshift so I can accelerate to get on the interstate and just stuff like that. And it's just like all the lag and the noise. And yeah, it's just, it's different for sure.
Yep.
What is your least favorite thing about your car?
So I have a list. She doesn't have anything she really doesn't like about it.
I don't.
See?
I will say the only thing I really don't like is the charger that sits right next to the driver's seat. The what's that called?
The phone charger.
The phone
wireless charger.
Wireless charger. Yeah. That does not work.
Yeah, it's
like off and on, and it'll make like a dinging noise, like it's starting to charge, and then it'll stop.
Well, she also has the larger iPhone, so I don't think it was meant for that in a case.
Yeah.
So it kind of sits up a little, and you hear this ding, and then it goes off, then ding, and then it goes off. So, and it does seem to heat up a lot too when it's on that. So your phone does get hot. It's not air cooled like in some of the cars that were reviewed. Those chargers seem to be some sort of air cooled, which is I think a great idea, and I think Kia should implement that. I don't know if it was in the EV9 or not, but one of the cars. It was air cooled, but I think that's something they need to consider working on. For me, it's the infotainment because it's just clunky. It's just, I'm spoiled. I drive a Tesla. I'm used to things just, flawlessly working. I tell it where I'm going. It plans my route. It plans my charging. The EV6 doesn't do that for me. I got to say, okay, well, I'm going. It says, it will tell me you need to charge and stop. You need to stop and charge, sorry. And charge and stop too. And it tells me where, here's some chargers for you, but it doesn't just do that for me in the route planning. And I wish it did. That's one thing that, we've driven all these EVs recently and reviewed them. That's one of these things they have all done for us. You just put where you're going from the part, and it tells you where to charge, how long you need to charge there, where you're going. Kia hasn't mastered that yet. That's one thing I don't like about it. Another thing would probably have to be just how the map looks. The map looks kind of weird, like someone just drew some stick figure lines and things like that. It just looks it doesn't look refined. So you don't have the satellite views and things like that. It says it shows traffic. I have not given it a good time to show me like real life traffic situations like my Tesla does. It shows me my Tesla shows me, the areas that are red and things like that. So that's one of the things. One of the things I really do like about it, I forgot. I think you asked me that question before, didn't you? Yes.
I did. It was the last one, but it's cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I remember it. How fast it supercharges as well. I mean, that thing is a beast supercharging. I mean, it's to the point to where, if we're coming back from Fayetteville or something and we plug in, it's hard for us to get into the Walmart, do what we need to do, and get back out before it's done because it's peaking at over 200 kilowatts, so deep into the pack. So, and that's one of the things I love about it. And that's one of the things I think it's kind of like, has a step above a lot of the other cars, except for like, Taycans and things like that. But just your everyday drivers, it just charges like a beast. They could just figure out the software. If they could just figure out an easy way to get over their updates. I haven't figured that out yet. I think you have to have the top tier of the Kia Access plan, which is like $20 a month to get over their updates. But we had one over the air update, and it literally took me a week to install because it only installed when the car was in motion. So it's like, with Tesla, you just park in your garage and hit install, and it installs. This only worked when it was driving. So if we're only driving 10, 15 minutes at a time, and it took forever to download.
Right.
So Another thing is, I didn't like about it. I feel so negative on it.
I know.
Is whatever the owner will tell you, and that's the ICCU issues that we've had. So it's been in the shop 4 times for recalls. It's been in the shop 3 times. We had the 12-volt battery die on us. The first 2 times we took it in, they said it was fine. Because what happened was it died at home, and it does some weird things when it dies. Like it leaves like one light on the back, one light on the front. You have to take your key fob and put it down onto the start to get it cycled up. So once, I bought one of those little jump kits. I don't know what they're called to jump it. And then I take it to the dealership and they say there's nothing wrong with it, and then 2 weeks would pass, I do it again, take it to the dealership, there's nothing wrong with it. So the last time when I knew it was going to happen, I just parked it in front of my house, let it die. And then I called a tow truck and said, I need you to come tow this to the dealership. So they towed it to the dealership dead. So now the dealership could see what was wrong with it. And they said, oh, you need a new 12-volt battery. I said, yes. I've told you the last 2 visits I need a new 12-volt battery. I'm not an idiot on this. It needs a new 12-volt. So that's another time we got a rental car, which was a gas car. And it took about a week for that to get in.
Well, we also had the issue with the speaker when we first got it. Remember that when the speaker kept going out at the front?
Oh, yeah. What was that? I think that was a software. Oh, the subwoofer. Yeah. So we had an issue with the subwoofer messing up, and they had to go in there, and it was a recall too. They had to replace the subwoofer and things like that. Actually, the first day that I owned it, I tried to use the little latch on the back to put the seats down, and that little metal wire that connects it actually snapped in half. So when I took it in one day, for a recall, I said, I don't think the latch in the back is working. Can you check it? And they fixed it for free. So it was no big deal. So I'll say every time we've taken it into Kia, they've been great. There hasn't been any issues. They've been nice. They've been polite and things like that. So we haven't had any issue with our 2 local Kia dealerships taking it in. I think it's a learning process for them too, trying to figure this out. So from what I hear, a lot of the repairs with the EV6 have to go to corporate, and corporate kind of tells them what to do. So it's not like taking your gas car in where if you have, hey, I got a spark plug issue, they just fix it out real quick. They have to diagnose it, send it to corporate. 2 or 3 days later, corporate sends, this is what you need to do, and then the technician does that. So I think that's where a lot of the lag comes in the repairs.
Gotcha. Well, you just answered my next 2 questions. My next question was going to be any maintenance issues, and how's Kia support or Kia service been? So look at you, Joel.
Maintenance issues about that, just the 12-volt. Tires. We put our first set of tires on about 3,000 or 4,000 miles ago. Any other maintenance?
No. And I've told him this too. It seems like we always have problems with your car, and you always make fun of my car.
Yeah. For me, it's the pesky little what are those things called? The things that squeak in the front of the Tesla. I'm going the blank right now. The control arms. The control arms. So the control arms on both of my cars had to be replaced. But luckily that was under warranty and things like that. But hers is just little minor things, like the subwoofer or the 12 volt's a big issue across all of the EGMP cars.
Well,
so
it doesn't help when you get the first car.
So yeah, this was like the first edition. Yeah. So you get all the bugs, you get all the things that have to be replaced. So, but now they should have that all figured out.
Right. So if you guys could call Kia and tell them one thing to change, what would it be?
The infotainment. They got to change the software in there. Mm-hmm. We drove the EV9. The EV9 software was steps above the EV6 software. So if they can incorporate that software into the EV6, especially the new ones that are coming out, the 2025s, that would be awesome because that was more user friendly. There weren't the deep menus. I mean, just to figure out another weird thing that the car doesn't do, it doesn't automatically, and I can't figure that the time doesn't switch for you. Like we have daylight savings time clicked on, but yet it doesn't do it. I don't understand why. So I don't know, maybe we have to drive it around for a while and then it kicks over, but those twice a year, we got to go in there manually, change the time. So for me, it would be the infotainment and try to figure out what's going on with the ICCU issues in the 12 volts time. So yeah, that's the 2 major things.
Well, good news for you is the new Kia EV6 gets the new infotainment system. It gets CCNC. So they already fixed it.
Can't wait to review one of those. Yes, I know. So.
Although, I hear from kind of what I hear, CCNC is great at first, and then it very quickly kind of devolves into the same old with a different skin on it. But hey, you can at least manually precondition in CCNC. So
that's what I wish every car would have, a button that says precondition. You just hit it and the car reconditions. So yeah, the Kia doesn't precondition unless I tell it to go to a charger, and then it will precondition. But it doesn't understand. Hey, I'm going to a charger. I need to precondition. I got to tell it I'm going to a charger, and then it starts preconditioning.
Yeah. So would you all recommend an EV6 to others?
Would you? You're a daily driver. Would you recommend it? Who's the daily driver of it?
I mean, I haven't had any issues. I mean, I love my car. If anybody ever asks me, do I love it? Yes, I would never say that I didn't. I mean, of course, the couple of issues that we've had, but those were minor. But no, I would definitely recommend my car to anybody, especially if they're looking for an electric car.
Yeah. I mean, I would. I don't have any problems with it. I would, as we think about getting rid of my Tesla here in the next year and a half, I would have no issues going into an Ioniq 5 or something like that. I like, their sister cars. I just like the look of the Ioniq 5 better.
Ioniq 9.
Ioniq 5.
Ioniq 9.
Oh, she wants an Ioniq 9 when we trade. Yes, but if I had to get a new car, I would be okay with the Ioniq 5. I just like how it looks. You'd be fine owning an EV9 if you had to. Yeah. So we have. I mean, there's nothing horribly negative about the car that we just couldn't stand. So I'd have no problems recommending it. It's probably out of the top 5 cars we've driven or reviewed. It's in the top 5. All the EGMP cars, I kind of lump them together. The Hyundais and Kias are all together. It's just, I say that the EV6 has hips and the Ioniq 5 doesn't have hips. So that's the only kind of two difference with it. So.
Yeah, I generally agree with that. Like I haven't spent obviously near as much time with the car compared to you guys, but I mean, the time I have spent with all the EGMP stuff, I've been like, yeah, I could deal with this every day.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, there's some little things that would, kind of be annoying or whatever, but I could deal with it because ultimately it's a awesome battery pack that charges really fast and has good performance.
That's what I think about when I think about
range and.
When I think about like the pros to like a Mustang Mach-E, I really like their infotainment better, but their charging curves are not, it's not a good charging curve on a long trip. Would I be okay with a mediocre or subpar infotainment and great charging? I probably would take that over. I probably would take that over the Mustang Mach-E.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today on this episode of the EV Geek Podcast. Hopefully you have some new insight now on what it's like to own an EV6 long term. As always, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel and leave a comment down below to let us know what you think. Your engagement does help us grow. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you again on another episode of the EV Geek Podcast. So long, everyone.